guys? What's going
It
on?
wasn't even now. It's live.
It's live. What's going on?
We're live, everyone.
Hey,
We're
welcome.
live. Welcome.
Welcome. Is the microphone on? Hey, what's up, guys?
Welcome back to Is It Crazy or Is It God?
Yes,
We're going live again. We like this live thing.
I do.
I'll tell you. What do you like about it?
It gives everybody a real time reaction and feeling. You know, so that's what I like about live, and I kind of got it from you and Damita. Shout out Damita.
Oh, okay.
Jo from Those Two Sisters, and how y'all been doing that really consistent, and y'all go live, and I was like, man. So that's given me motivation to go live with fourth quarter. It's just better, man. You know. And then if you really think about it, I think the only things that are live are news and sports. Somebody said that. Sports shows and news and sports are the only things that are actually live. Everything is
pre-recorded. Yeah, that's cool. I like going live because it is cool when we have people commenting. But also it's the idea that I don't have to like edit the show before it goes out. Like it is what it is. It's up, it's out. You know what I mean? Like so I like that aspect of it. And then whoever is out here living this live life, you can join in. Mm-hmm. So at some point I guess we should like kick it out to people, but I'll figure that out. Today we are back for another podcast episode of Is It Crazy or Is It God, where we are wanting to encourage a community of Bible readers. And so with that, it's like you don't have to already be a Bible reader. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can join the club at any time.
Yep.
And we just want you to know that you're not alone, and we're doing it too. And if you are out there trying to read the Bible, you should, connect with us. Say something in the comments. Let us know how's it going for you.
Yep.
Whether you're on a Bible plan or not. Let us know what's up. Something just popped into my mind that I need to ask you later, because you had said Rose had some feedback, and I meant to ask you what that was.
We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about it offline.
Yeah.
See, this is why. Anyway, how was your week?
Oh man, my week was pretty good. I could a lot better. I went to the gym one time last week. Now I'm proud of that.
You said you're not proud of it?
No.
Oh, okay. I didn't go at all. So there you go. One more than me.
But I want to build it up. So this week I'm going to focus on going to the gym 5 times. No, four times.
I was going to say, wow.
Okay. Yeah, 4 times.
Hey, listen.
And then the week after that, 5. I want to have a good. I talk a lot about ratios. I want to have a really good 5-to-2 ratio that I'm working out versus not working out.
The 5-time thing doesn't sound so crazy, because I'm like, that would be a good way to hold myself accountable for having not gone for so long. Well, I mean, it hasn't been so long, but at least it's been like a week and some change. So if I were to say, okay, well, the penalty is that you have to go 5 times, right? And it's just like, I don't want to do that. But then obviously I'm not going when I say I'm going to go 3 times. So
5 times is a good work. Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
You give your body 2 days of rest. Or you can walk on a Saturday, nothing like that,
The outdoors.
Yeah. Do an outdoor, go biking or something, but something that's, you got to give your body rest. So I think 5, if you go to the gym 5 times a week, I think you're going to be in top shape.
I mean, I'm in at this point just to make sure that I'm
healthy. I think that's a healthy.
Okay, listen, I gotta go do a sound check, but I'll be right back. You go ahead and finish telling me about your week, how it goes, and work and all that stuff.
Oh yeah. Work was pretty good. It's a little busy. It's always busy, but it's good to be busy because that means that time goes by fast when you're busy, and it means you're needed, right? If the problem is if you have a job and they run out for duties for you, that's going to become the issue. But if you're able to, you know, if you stay busy at your job, it's a good thing. It's my advice. Like if you're a server, I was a bartender and server for a while. I will always try to keep moving. It's always something to do in a restaurant. Not always, but it's like 90% chance, that you got to run food, you got to clean the kitchen, you got to do your side work, you got 6 tables, you got to go run drinks. I'm just saying it's always good to be busy,
Are you talking about restaurant stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
I said work was busy, but it's always good to be busy because it makes the time go fast.
Okay, well, you don't even work in a restaurant, so that sounds like trying to figure out how you got there.
No, I'm just comparing it.
Oh, okay, cool.
So that's how my week went. Next week, I'm going to implement this. I'm going to start dedicating probably around 20 minutes to writing my goals, and then another 20 minutes where I'm going to read a proverb, and then my wife got me this, and I'm just going to sit and write.
What is it? Say it out loud for the people who are listening.
Promises from God for every man. It talks about anxiety and talks about time, talks about change, humility, working for God's glory. So I'm going to...
There's a table of contents if you're looking for something.
No, I'm just
You're
flipping
just going to
through
read through it? Okay.
Yeah, I'm just flipping through.
Okay.
Talks about help, humility, seeking God, and has these Bible verses. So I'm going to start that next week where I just take some time and, take some alone time with God every day. More alone time because we read the Bible. Then I have my morning routine, which I kind of spend a long time with God because I don't watch TV. Faith to tell you, I probably don't start watching TV probably till when I start work. And I mostly watch YouTube about what's going on, the current events of sports and stuff like that. But, that's my goal is to go to the gym more and spend more time with God. Yep.
All right. Wow.
Work on my, work on my nightly routine as well. So I'm just...
Same. I was just getting ready to agree with you.
So that's what I'm going to try to push myself this week. I'm going to really push it. I'm trying to go toward the unknown. Yeah. And the unknown is doing something that's making me uncomfortable persistently. That's it. All right. Well, how was your week?
My week was good. I think I have to, I definitely need to turn up the heat, but I definitely feel like these last few weeks of sort of reflection are making me understand the reasons why I'm not performing the way that I would like to. And I think it takes for me to slow down a little bit to see what's not working and sort of put it on paper. I'm a paper kind of person. And when I put things on paper and I look at it, it gives some separation from what's going on emotionally to what's actually happening. And then I can look at it and say, oh, that is not the way I want it to be. I want it to be like this. And so what do I have to do physically or, whatever to make sure that this happens this way? So that's sort of actually what I've been doing is putting things down on paper and trying to analyze what it takes internally for me to, be the sort of person I want to be. So this last week was, listen, we're blessed. You know what I'm saying? These past couple of weeks have been tough for personal reasons, but I think that, God is good all the time. And I'm learning so many things about about God and about how he operates, and so I don't need to know everything, but it's helpful to know some things.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. So this week was definitely it was a good week. I'm just learning a lot, and it's humbling. We're going to get into some of that here because it's crazy to me how first when we started learning about the Israelites and I started to see myself there, right? Like, oh yeah, you're really a complainer. Like you're really doing this thing all wrong. Yeah. And then I started to read, as now we're starting to read about David, as he's like an example of how to do some of these things right. And I mean, Moses was too, so don't get me wrong about that. But
people,
but
Joseph, Moses.
But David seems to be even more like expressive, and maybe it's because we're getting some of the first person, right, like action from David, where we're reading his Psalms, and I think there's maybe just more details about him or something. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I think something about David where I feel like this is a more up close and personal accounting of what he's going through. And so the point of me bringing that up was that I could see what the Israelites were doing and how, I was doing that. I am doing that. And then I can see how David is doing some things that are amazing that I'm starting to see like, oh, this is the model of like, this is how you should want to be in this way. Yeah. Right. And this is what it yields, right? Because he's getting blessed because of the way that he is doing things. So that's really cool. I'm going to go ahead and pull this camera a little closer if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
All right. And so all in all, my week was good. I identified some things with me, which is great. Because the time that I come on here and say everything's perfect and I don't need to work on a thing would be the time that I should be afraid, because maybe it's, it's all really going downhill. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, what did we read this week? We started here. 2 Samuel 7, 1 Chronicles 17. Then we went on to read Psalms 25, 29, 33, 36, 39. 2 Samuel 8 through 9. Did we read 8 and 9? Yeah, we did. Yep. 1 Chronicles 18 and more Psalms. Mm-hmm. Psalms 50, 53, 60, and 65. Yep. So lots of Psalms in there. Let's stop real quick. I just want to know, what do you think about the book of Psalms? Just in general. What are you getting out of it? Like, what are your thoughts? What's your take on it?
Okay, so it's a lot of information in there. It's a different perspective because some are there's so many variations of them. Mm-hmm. They're like, some are praising God, some are dealing with suffering, some are dealing with humility, some are being descriptive of how David feels at a certain time. So it's interesting. I definitely look at it from a different perspective. So yeah, that's what I think about Psalms. I think it's a good. I don't want to say counterbalance, but it's if you're going through something, Psalms is probably going to help you get through it because there's so many of them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's true. It's so true though, because actually one of my mom's favorite Bible verses is Psalms, and she was telling me about how she used to recite it.
Which one?
I think it's 119. Don't quote me on that. Okay. Sorry, Mom, if I got that wrong. It might be 90. Psalms 90, perhaps? Psalms 91? Now I'm scared that I messed it up. It might be Psalms 91.
Let me see.
I think it was Psalms 91. Anyway, she used to tell me, she would tell me how she used to recite
everlasting to everlasting.
Psalms 91, not 90. Is that right?
Yeah. 90,
Anyway,
91 is my refuge, my fortress.
He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High. I think that's the one. Yeah. Yeah. Psalms 91. That was the one. Yeah. So I think that okay, here's my take on Psalms so far, because we haven't read all of them.
Look what it says. This tender and intimate psalm describes the confidence that the believer may have through all manner of dangers and challenges. So that's really nice.
Yeah. So that's her joy. But my thing is this: with the Psalms, it's interesting because it gives this really personal effect of like life, and so one of the things that's a part of life is death, and everybody's going to have to go through it, and everybody knows somebody who passed away. But knowing that these people who passed away so long ago have left us with these thoughts and Psalms that like almost perfectly describe things that we've gone through present day. It's wild to me because it's like, okay, it's not like we're all living the same life, but we can all share like these sentiments. Like they're pretty descriptive of like of experiences that are being had, and also the feelings that are being felt when those things are happening, and sort of like the outcries to God and what God does and how God operates. And so Psalms is so interesting to me. And a lot of times we see this word Selah. I'm never going to let this go. I don't really know what is meant by it. We talked about maybe amen, but there's this saying that people say present day, say less. And every time I read Selah now, for some reason I hear say less. Like, and say less means like got you. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I was just like laughing because I was like, I don't think it means say less, but I mean it's fitting too. It could mean say less. Like, bet. Oh my gosh. So anyway, that's a fun little fact. So let's just go ahead and jump right in, shall we? Mm-hmm. Based on the reading we did, we're going to start with 2 Samuel 7, 1 Chronicles 17. And we talked about this before. We're reading from the 365 Daily Bible Reading Plan from teachsundayschool.com. Yep. And we're just going to go over the questions and answer them. What's interesting is that we do not read the questions ahead of time, but sometimes we are already answering the question. We've noticed over the past couple weeks that 2 Samuel and 1 Chronicles sort of repeat each other. Mm-hmm. So whenever we read a verse like that together, a couple verses together, whenever they have them paired like that in this reading, it's normally the same thing from, I guess, two different people are saying it it's two different writings because it's very similar, but we're noticing a little small differences. Yeah. Sometimes it has more details. Sometimes it's exactly the same, just written differently. Yep. But today we noticed, and last time we read too, we noticed that like they had mentioned two of David's sons that they hadn't mentioned in one, they mentioned in the other. Mm-hmm. And then this time James picked up that this person's name is different. It looks like it's Toy or Tua, Toi, but then in the First Chronicles version, it was Tou, and then it said he sent a different son than it said that he sent in the other one we read. So, wanted to put that out there in case anyone noticed that and thought they were, going crazy. You're not. We noticed it. But that was interesting because you could see how, it's kind of two different accountings of the same thing. Okay, so David will plan the temple, and First Chronicles records this story. Yep.
And how do the stories differ?
Oh gosh, we just talked about this. How do these stories differ? What's important in each is the question. So for this one, I do know that David, just going back a little bit, David was saying how, he had brought the Ark of the Covenant back, and he had a situation with one of his wives where she was kind of like making fun of him because he was dancing. So now he's in the stage of planning the temple, because first one thing that I noticed was that he asked God, like, first of all, he asked God. This is really interesting. David asks God, "Are you going to do this for me?" And then God says, "Yes, I'm going to do it for you." And then he goes and does it.
Yeah.
Then another thing that's funny is I'm giving you some time to you do what you got to do.
I already know the difference.
Oh, okay. Well, I got to say this.
Okay.
And then he asks God while he's doing a thing that he's been instructed to do. So he kind of like really is asking God for stuff all the time, or for instruction. He asked him if he should put it in he was like, "Why would I put you in a tent?" Right? Why would I put the Ark of the Covenant, I believe he was talking about, in a tent?
Yeah.
I should build a temple, or I should build a construct. And God basically answered him and said, "No, I'll have somebody else do that. Mm-hmm. Like, you're fine." So I wanted to point that out, but I don't have an answer. Go ahead and tell your answer.
Well, one thing is, he's saying that 7:1 says, "When your days are fulfilled and you lie down with your fathers, I'll raise up your offspring after you. It shall come to your body, and I'll establish a kingdom. He shall build a house for my name, and I will establish his throne forever. I will be to him a father, and he shall be to be a son." Right? That is in 2 Samuel 7:12 through 14. 1 Chronicles 17, the Lord says in 17:11, "When your days are fulfilled to walk with your fathers, I will raise up your offspring after you, one of your own sons, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build a house for me, and I will establish his throne forever. I will be a father to him, and he shall be a son." This is talking about Solomon, but the difference is he says that it's going to be a son. Here it just says offspring. So that's predicting what, if we don't know who King Solomon is, he's considered the wisest man to ever live because God, I think he prayed for wisdom. He said, "God, I want wisdom." And I think he's the one that wrote Proverbs, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's considered the wisest man. And the temple that God is talking about is known as Solomon's Temple, King Solomon's Temple. Now, there have been movies about this. There have been publications. There have been books. It's so funny because nobody will believe in the Bible, but people believe in King Solomon's Temple, which is another topic. But he's considered like one of the wisest men ever to live. I really can't wait to read about him in the temple. So that's why I think the difference in the two is. And I think that's why those are important. What about you?
I just now found it, so
Yeah,
I don't remember. Thing. I just feel like
that's the only thing.
I know he definitely said something in one of them about why did you choose me, and I know the other one said something slightly different. How do the stories differ? 2 Samuel 7. Here we go. I'm just getting to it because I had the other one pulled up, but I lost it. Okay. Yeah, so I guess
they're really, really similar.
Yeah, really. I'm just gonna go with your answer because one of them said, did he say that?
What?
He was like, "Who am I that, and what is my house and family that you've brought me this far?" He said that in 1 Chronicles So First Chronicles 17:16.
Mhm.
David kind of asked God, like, why,
Yeah.
why am I important? Like, why are you making me so important? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Did he say that in 1 Samuel 7? Did I say the I don't think he did.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, he did?
It's David's prayer of gratitude. So it's 7:18.
No. Okay. Am I in the second? I'm in the wrong
7:18.
one. That's why. Duh.
Oh.
Okay, I was in 1 Samuel like a genius. Okay, great. That's why I couldn't find the difference. Okay. I was like, because it's all different. Okay, got it. Who am I, O Lord or God?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I will raise up your descendant after you. Nathan is in both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't really know.
They were
the
really,
answer
really
to that.
similar. Really.
Yeah.
Only one that's the only thing I could see.
Yeah, okay, well look, we're gonna go with your answer because I don't have a good answer.
All right. Now we're gonna go towards various psalms. And David wrote Psalm 33 after being forgiven for adultery.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's the one. We didn't get to that part of the story yet, but
how did you know that? Oh, he
It
said it
says
right
it.
there. Okay, I was like,
I didn't know that. It just said
I
it
did
there.
not know that. Okay. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah. All right. So then it says, "What has God forgiven you for, and what can you learn? What can you learn from David?" That's what I'm saying.
Okay, I got a
Because it
lot.
says, "What can you learn, David?" It has to be, "What can you learn from David?" What has God forgiven me for? I
how
mean,
much time do we have?
I think so. I've gotten to the habit of praying for forgiveness every day. So, I mean, listen, we probably sin millions of times a day. Like, I'm not millions of times, but we probably sin a lot, right? Only person that was out sin was Jesus Christ, and He is the greatest person ever lived. So, because He saved us all by sacrificing Himself, so we can go to heaven. Because if we believe that He died on the cross for our sins, we're gonna go to heaven. So I think that He's forgiven me for millions of things. Because I ask for forgiveness every day. You know, I try to every time I pray, man. I try to ask for forgiveness because we probably sin so much we don't even know we're sinning. To be honest with you, that's just the way. That's just the way it is. Like, I mean, I'm not talking about anything egregious, but just sometimes your thoughts, your actions, you know, um, the negative thoughts that you talk to yourself is probably a sin. But you know, what is He forgiven me for? All the little things and sins I do, I try to pray for forgiveness every day. I can't zero in on one specific sin. Like, this one is asking, like,
I know, like, what is this? A confession? I mean, listen.
Yeah,
go ahead.
stab my dog and God forgave
Oh my
me.
God.
So what type of, I'm just saying that He's going to forgive me though for, all. You have to ask. I don't think He automatically forgives you, but when I pray in the mornings, that's the first thing I ask for. I say, thank you for waking me up. Thank you for waking my wife up. And then I say, forgive me. Because I know I've done something yesterday or I'm going to do something today that you're not going to be happy.
Man, this is not maybe answering the question, but it's just heavy on my mind. Like, I lack so much faith in God. Like, I said this before, but it's just so thick and prevalent. I literally, say that I trust God. And I do. You know what I'm saying? Like, I do trust God. And I know everything's going to be okay. But, like, literally, when I don't understand something or whenever I'm made to be uncomfortable, I'm first of all complaining. And then,
I complain.
and then when I don't see, like, the obvious like way that things are going to get the way that I want them to be. So things are going to get to that. The circumstances are going to go in my favor. I just sit there and worry. So here's another thing that I thought that was interesting, because I really have been observing myself.
Yeah.
It's gotten to the point now where I'm like, what are you doing? Right? Like I'll be saying that to myself. You see me sitting here and look out the window sometimes. And this is what I like having a conversation with myself. It's just like, what are you actually doing? Like, why are you allowing yourself to feel this agitation and anxiety? Like, when you can you choose another feeling? Like, I ask myself these things, and like you can, and it's the same way that you can, because otherwise you're just in an effect of everything that's happening to you all the time, right? Like somebody cuts you off in traffic, and now you've got to be mad, and it's not up to you, and you don't have any control, right? Or I went to a birthday party a couple of weeks ago, and there was so much love in the room. It's just like you can't sit in that room and be mad, because everybody was just so like loving and just nurturing, and also very like happy, you know what I'm saying? Even, you know, I can't even say happy necessarily, but like everybody was like there was an excitement, but it's like those palpable things, like when you watch, I found myself like watching something like even like social media sometimes, and like I watch something like that a baby does that is funny, or like an animal like a cat or dog or whatever, or you know, anything like that, and then the next thing you know, you're looking at your phone and you're smiling, and it's so funny to me because it's just like I'm physically smiling from something that's not actually in front of me. It's just a video recording or whatever, and like that's obviously changing my mood. And it's just like certain things, like you can turn on music and change your mood to whatever you want to feel. You can turn on sad music, you can turn on happy music, you can turn on angry music, you can turn on, you know, things like that, or you can watch a movie that puts you in a certain mood. So you can certainly change your mood, and even depending on if you have thoughts that you've stored. But for some reason, I choose to be hopeless sometimes, and I want to stay there. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if I can choose my mood, why wouldn't I then adjust it at all times, like a thermostat, like an automatic thermostat, to just be trusting of God? And not to say I'm just going to sit around here all day and like not go to work or shower and I'm just going to trust God, but it's just interesting to me because I find myself in a negative state of mind sometimes, and I don't actively seek to get out of it, or like act or try to remember. Like it's like I don't remember, and I'm not trying to, right? And so I think God forgives me for that, because inevitably when I find my way out of that thought process and that pattern, I do ask God for forgiveness, and I'm like, oh man, I'm so silly. Like, or when He does fix a situation that I felt was like, you know, bad, and now it's better, like He answers a prayer, then it's like, oh, I can't believe I didn't trust you, or I can't believe I was even worried. Because it's not like I'm ready to say I didn't trust Him, but there's something there that's not 100%. You know what I'm saying? So I think God has to be forgiving me for that. And then also just being, there's a difference between being disobedient. I think this is my own thing. I think there's a difference between being disobedient and just being, I guess, not idle. Like sometimes I'll put something off and be like, oh, I know God wants me to do this, but later, right? And I'll do it later. Sometimes I won't, but I don't really consider that being disobedient. Like I'm just not going to do that. It's like I'm taking my sweet time to do it, unfortunately. And I think God forgives me for that too. So that's it. That's my answer. What can I learn from David? What can you learn from David? Go ahead and answer that.
He's in the present. He stays in the present moment, and he's always talking to God. In that moment, no matter what he's going through, he's present, but he trusts God so much. Like he is the first person I've seen talk to, besides Job, talk to God like he's built a relationship with God. Because no matter what's happening in his life, he's like, I gotta trust you, God. I'm in a cave about to die. I'm praying to God.
Yeah.
Well, God, let me pray to become a ruler. Got to pray to God, you know.
Yeah.
And he was different than a lot of the other rulers, because I remember um, when Israel, after Joshua, guys, remember Israel was everywhere because they didn't kill all the people. They didn't follow God's instruction, and they started commingling with the inhabitants, and then you get the
Canaanites.
Philistines,
Yeah.
right? So now what David is doing is David is and remember God told Joshua this. He said, "If you take all the gold that you get and give it to me." Remember, he was like, "Don't kill the inhabitants and don't and burn the city." And
One of the people, it wasn't Joshua,
it wasn't
but
Josh.
one of the younger guys, right?
Took
Yeah,
the
yeah,
gold.
yeah. I do remember that.
But this time David is giving all the gold to God, all the gold, all the bronze, and I think that's what I can learn from David is no matter what you're going through, you gotta trust God.
I like the whole present thing. That's really cool. I didn't think about it like that. I'm learning how to pray. Like I said that before, but like David is real with this prayer.
It's real, man.
Like he's really passionate when he's praying. It's not just like, thanks for coming out, God bless you, good night. No hate or shade to Russell Simmons, but it's not just like that, you know, like God made food, God made dirt, doesn't hurt, whatever the grace was that we used to say. But David is really connecting himself to God, and he's living his life with God. He's not just like, oh, I'll holler when I need you.
Yeah.
He's like, he's explaining different details about what his need feels like, and you know how it's going to be when it's better, and then when it is better, when he's explaining like his praise for God, he's like recapping and going over all the things that God did. We read one of the Psalms today, and it really just kind of blew my mind, because this is me still like coming out of my whole, or still just being in it, of like worry or whatever. And as we're reading this one verse, and it's kind of recapping like what God did, like God made light so that I could see light, right? Like, okay, first of all, it blew my mind, because I was just like, you could see light, obviously, but like just the idea that like God made light so that now you can see it, and you can see and know what light is.
Yeah.
Because light didn't exist. And then also, you know, all just the wonders of the world that they talk about all the time, about like the beach, and about making all of the animals and everything that God has done. And then you think that God can't fix your little problem, or you think that your problem is so sad, or you know what I'm saying, so like, or like you don't understand what God is doing. That's another one that God has forgiven me for. That I'm like, God,
I'll never understand.
How is this happening? And then it's just like, you don't know what's really happening. Like, do you think this is happening to you? Like, I'm just a measly little morsel on this big earth.
Small.
Right?
Like
and
that.
Yeah. So it's like,
looking down.
How dare I say, like, don't you see what's happening in this life, God? Like, what are you doing up there? Like, I never said that, but I'm just saying, like, just the audacity of me to think that whatever little discomfort I have is of, not even of concern, because it is of concern, but it's like, it's gotta, obviously, when everything else is going in order in the world, and the sun sets, and you know, and rises, and the oceans are stop where they're supposed to. So for me to say something as if this can't be right, you must have meant this to go differently, God, it's like really kind of arrogant. You know, so I say that about David. David is very like cognizant of how, more like, you know, where he stands, and he's gonna be respectful of God, but he's also just, you know, like pouring out his heart. He's so descriptive and passionate, and that's something that I can stand to be better at when I'm talking to God, because I mean, we're growing our relationship, but also sometimes it feels like a little bland, right? It's just like, oh yeah, I'll talk to God when I have time. or I'm going to do it like this because this is, the way that I've learned how to do it. Yeah. But it's not really intimate like David is experiencing. So that's something that, that was a good question. I never really looked at it like that. So anyway. All right, moving right along. Wow, I can't believe we've been on for that long. I've been talking a lot.
2 Samuel 8-9 and 1 Chronicles 18. So this talks about David's military victories. And also, David shows an act of kindness to one of Saul's relatives.
He does.
Yep. And then what Chronicles describes is everybody that he defeated on his way to becoming king. Saul chased David for 15 years. That's a long time to chase somebody. Why would David seek out a relative of Saul to be kind to? That's an easy question, guys. David is a man of integrity. And he is has a very reverence for God in such a way that he was never going to kill Saul, even though Saul tried to kill him, because of the way that God chose Saul. And he says it all the time. He's like, man, God chose you, Saul. I'm not going to kill you. And when one of the guys came back and lied about being there with Saul's death, he still killed him because he was like, how are you going to kill a man that was chosen by God to lead people? Now, whether Saul, even though the people chose Saul, God still was like, okay, this is your king. And here he is. Now, if Saul would have did a couple things according to God, he would still been king. But he chose not to. But that doesn't mean that God didn't choose him. So I think that's where David is like, listen, if you're cool with Saul, even though he tried to kill me, because God chose him and how much I fear God, then I'm going to look out and be kind to all of Saul's relatives. So that's what I think.
Because he had integrity. I agree with that too, but it's so funny because this was the point where we were talking about the two, I don't know his name, whether it was Toy or Tao. He brought silver and gold and bronze. Yeah. Or his son did. And he dedicated King David also dedicated what he got from him to the Lord. Yeah. So I actually went there with it. So it was after that he said, is there any one of, did he say any one of Saul's or any one of Jonathan's?
He said Saul.
Okay. Relatives that he could help. So maybe it was the idea that like, oh, we've just been blessed. Who can we bless? Yeah. Right. And so he definitely has integrity. If you think about, and I know this is not the question of comparing David to Saul, but if you think about how Saul rolled, he was very much concerned about himself and like what was happening to him. And he would make things law and then go and break that law. He would do things that were like,
he asked if there's anything left of Saul.
Okay, got it. Anything left of Saul's house. Got it.
Relatives left. Yeah.
And somebody said Jonathan's son or Jonathan's grandson or something like that. Yeah. So, okay, here's the deal. He could have been it's probably more than one answer, but I think definitely he had integrity and he was just a stand-up guy. Yeah. This is the point I was making, not trying to compare the two of them, but kind of have to. Saul just kind of like was about himself. Yep. And David just seems like he wants to do the right thing, having integrity. Yep. But also I think he's just mindful about serving God. Yep. Like, okay, God made me king. What would God want me to do? Let me think about who God is. Yep. Let me think about what I've learned and let me, do this way. Or like the fact that, okay, God handed me over my enemies, as they say it in here. God handed me over my enemies. Like I've I've defeated the Philistines. I've acquired all this land, right? So he might be thinking to himself, how can I, do what God would want me to do?
Mhm.
And he could just be thinking he wants to take care of the people that deserve to be taken care of. It seemed like he just maybe just like came up with that.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, I should do something good for these people who were, like, so it's like he's just wanting to do good. You know what I'm saying? I think that that's why he did it, because he just wanted to do good, and he's getting blessed, and he's blessed God, and now he's like, who else can I bless? Before he's like, how like you do this with me when it's like the food comes or whatever, and it's like, or when it's time to make a plate or whatever, it's just like women and children eat first type of thing. Mm-hmm. So I think that's kind of like the same sentiment. Mm-hmm. Like you're just being kind because you have so much.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I agree with that. Yeah. This is.
And what can we learn from this?
It's the same.
It's not really the same thing. Here's why.
It's not,
because I didn't even make the connection. Of course, we can learn to be more like that, but I didn't really make the connection there.
You know what I can learn from this?
What can you learn from this?
To be kinder.
Man,
David was kind. He was about his business now. Don't disrespect him. Don't disrespect
Can we have a real... I'm going to let you finish.
Yeah, don't disrespect David. He's not for... Listen, he's not for all that. Just because he sings in the choir, he will... Listen, he's a G. He is a G. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So let's not get that out there. But he's kind. You can be kind and still be fair. So I think kindness is probably the thing that steps out to me. And not holding a grudge.
That's what I was going to get at.
Not holding a grudge. You know what I'm saying? So that's probably what I can learn, is to be kinder and let stuff go.
Yeah, I could learn that too. And I'm not saying I'm rejecting that as a lesson.
Yeah.
But even just the idea of like, somebody's out to get me, somebody's trying to hurt me.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go, well, yeah, I guess I could see myself learning that. Because, I mean, in my mind, David did do because he forgave Saul, but then he was like, I'm going to get out of here anyway. And then when Saul died, he was upset about it and all that, which I get. I can relate to that.
And he spared Saul's life like 4 times.
Well, a lot. But here's the thing.
Like, I could have killed you, but I'm not.
When we talk about not holding a grudge, that sounds really good. But like when it's time to actually forgive the grudge,
it's hard.
I need some actual instructions, right? And this is a great example, but it's kind of like, for me, I'm not like some serious grudge holder, but I'll remember, you know what I mean? Like, okay, like David did with Saul. Like, I remember, like, I remember you did that. I think I'm gonna head over here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't really trust that you're not gonna do that again. So I don't know. There's something that's differentiating between that. Yeah. As far as what I can learn from David on how he treated the relative, one thing that he did was he was like, you guys, you're gonna come eat at my table. And so I have to think that was for the benefit of the person, because he said something about his feet. He was like handicapped in some way.
I mean, you sitting at the king's table. It's a really...
Yeah, it's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
So
not everybody's sitting there eating. Mm-hmm. And it's the best food. Like, this is the you know what I'm saying? You're getting the best of the best of the best. You're getting the best wine, you're getting the best calves, you're getting the best fruit. And it's probably his sons, his wives, probably like his chief advisors, and Saul's relatives, Jonathan's son. That's good to be at the table. It's like eating with the president every day. You know what I'm saying? Eating with the I was gonna say king of the moon, but that's a fairy tale. It's like that, like eating with, I just said president.
Royalty,
we are here. So
will you please So anyway,
So what happens if you have pets?
The idea that he invited him in,
Yes.
and not only just bless them, because that's one thing. You could bless somebody and send them on their way.
Yeah.
But when you're like inviting them into your circle, that's something that I could definitely learn from. So there's that. So moving right along, we got another question here.
This is it.
Various Psalms. So this is Psalms concerning Psalms 50, 53, 60, and 75.
I'm going to start with you first.
Okay.
Which Psalm strikes you the most deeply and why?
All right. I'm going to rely on my highlights for this because there was one I do remember that I was like, wow. We're talking about 50, 53, 60, 60, 75. All right. Let's see. There's a lot of these Psalms that were 50. I kind of think it was 75, 53. And I'm going by looking at the amount of like markers, like notes that I have. And 60, I didn't really make that many marks there. And then 75, it's looking like it's 50. 75, what does 75 say? It might have been 75 now that I think about it. Yeah. God is a judge. He puts one down and lifts one up. As for me, I will declare it and rejoice forever. I will sing praises to the God of Jacob. This one was, we give thanks and praise. But 50 was about gather my godly ones to me, those who have made a covenant with me by sacrifice. God, the judge of the righteous and of the wicked. So it might have been 50. I think 50 was the one that struck me the most deeply because it compares like when God judges, he's talking about the righteous people and he's talking about wicked people. So in the first part, he's talking about righteous people, I believe. And he's basically like, I'm going to honor you. I'll rescue you. You're going to honor and glorify me. And he's just saying like, what people are doing, the burnt offerings, what righteous people are doing. And then when it gets to Psalm 50:16, then it starts talking about the wicked, right? So then he's saying like, what right do you have to recite my statutes or take my covenant on your lips? When you see a thief, you're pleased and condone his behavior. You associate with adulterers. You sit and speak against your brother, and you're not giving glory to God. Because here's the thing. We all associate with adulterers. I mean, we don't maybe know it or not, but like there's certain things that are sins. Like the people who are righteous are still sinning, right? They're just asking God for forgiveness and they're doing things proactively to try to, seek God and repent, right? But people who are wicked, I will say, and I mean, wicked might have a bit of a more sinister connotation than maybe it deserves, because wicked, I wonder if wicked and evil are the same things. Wicked might just be not a believer. I don't know. Because here is like, here's the thing. Some of the things that the wicked do, the righteous also do. But the difference between the righteous is that they're seeking God. So when the wicked people do it, it's just without any, what do you call it? It's without any shame. Like this is what I do. You slander your brother. You talk bad about God. Probably, I don't know where it said that. It denounces. Okay, no, they'll say God. Okay, these things I've done and I've kept silent. he who offers a sacrifice of praise and thanksgiving honors me. He's even saying to those people who forget about God that if you come to him and offer a sacrifice of praise and thanksgiving, he will still show you salvation. So that kind of even proves my point. It's like the only difference between the righteous and the wicked is that the wicked just refuse to acknowledge God and try to walk in the ways in the statutes that God put forth. But that definitely gave me like something to look at, like, you know, the difference between it. So that's the one that struck me most deeply.
Wicked can have connotations of mischief, playfulness, whereas evil is indicative, is
indicative of malevolence, immorality, and sin. So yeah, I think wicked is a little different. It's obviously different because this is the difference between the two that he just read. So wicked is not
a synonym, but that could. But
wicked, I think, is just not as, it's like bad and terrible, right? Like if you say, "Oh, that child is bad," I don't want to say that either. But like you could say that. You know, it's the difference between not good and terrible, right? Like that soup was not good, or that soup was terrible. It's two different things. Yeah. Even though I wouldn't want either, right? So the thought is like, I feel that kind of struck me more so than some of the other ones in that group of Psalms, because it made me think about how, okay, wicked, causing harm, morally bad, wicked. That's the meaning of evil. So, okay.
I think they're similar but different.
They're very similar, I guess. Yeah. But, yeah, okay. That's the one that struck me, and that's why. What have you?
The same is 50.
Okay.
Has a lot of highlights. I think what struck out to me is number 7 through 11. And you said it earlier, how small you really are. It says, "I am your God. Not for your sacrifices I do rebuke you. Your burnt offerings are continuing for me. I will not accept the bull of your house or goats from your folds. Every beast in the forest is mine." Everything is mine. The cattle of 1,000 hills, the birds of the hills, everything on this planet Earth is mine.
Yeah.
And we read a psalm earlier. Just to put this in perspective, I'm going to turn to it, and this is really that. I'm going to put this in perspective where he says, no, it's not that one. Is it 29? Where he says that.
Was it 33? Oh no, that wasn't. That wasn't it.
It was. Yeah, 33.
Okay.
When the Lord looks down on us, listen. We're thinking when we hear God created us in His image. Yes, I think we forget how small we are compared to God. I think we forget of what He can do. He can, like, the earth is like, He's sitting on the throne, and the earth is kind of like this to Him. He can see all. You know, sometimes we forget of how powerful God is. Like, He can bend the rules. You know that? He makes the rules up as He goes because He is the creator. I think we tend to forget that. I think we just think like, you know, and I do this. I forget all the time how powerful God is. But when you read the Bible, you get reminded of that constantly. And that's the whole point, right? You want to fear Him, because if you fear Him, He's going to bless you. In Psalms 33, it says He looks for people. He looks at everybody. But the people that fear Him and do righteous, He just pays more attention to. Because why am I going to pay attention to you if you don't believe in me?
Right. Well, yeah, you don't. Yeah.
But my door is always open.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always here. And I'm listening to you. You know, one of the podcasts he's listened to, Patrick Bet Davis said he didn't believe in God until one day he said that I asked God if you're real. Um, he said he was crying. Him and his mother relationship. He didn't have his mother's number. He said, God, if you're real, um, my mother will call me. And his phone rang from a um, unrecognized number. And he picked it up. And his mom said, God told me to reach out to you. He said, at that point, I believed. God's always listening. He's always listening to everybody. But if you're like David and you're fearing God and you're constantly praying and you're following God's instructions, he's going to bless you.
Yeah.
But sometimes we forget of how small we are.
Yeah, and how, also sometimes we forget. Yeah, I mean, I really can't say it better than that. How small we are, and how the things that we feel like we need are probably not actually needs.
Yep.
So one of the other things that this song points out is how a horse is a false hope for victory, and it kind of I don't know if it was more in this verse, but it was basically saying how people put false weight on being rich and having things, because really you're always going to be missing something if you don't have God, right? Like if you don't have, you could have all the riches and stuff, but then you don't have love. And then it was one of them that said, I can't remember which one it was, but it was like the people who amass all this money don't even know who they're leaving it to.
Yep.
That was wild to me, because I was like, wow, that's interesting. Even if you have, they don't know who's going to inherit it. That's what it says. Even if you have, I've heard about this, even if you have a living will or whatever, sometimes the government can still step in and distribute your money depending on what you have set up, with the way that you have it set up. And then what if your family goes with you? You know what I'm saying? What if your family goes with you? So you really don't know who's going to get it. And then you might think oh, this is the way I'm going to disperse my money. But then once you're gone, you can't really oversee it.
Does it really matter?
And it doesn't really matter, because your life is worth, you know what I'm saying? Life is more valuable than that. And God is the one who made life. God is the one who made you, which is why it's always so interesting to me, like I said, when people don't believe in God, because it's like, well, who do you think made you?
Yeah.
Right? Who do you think is the manufacturer? And, who else's words are more important? Right? I don't know what people would think, right? Maybe they think I'm just here. I'm just a particle, a spectacle of, whatever, of being. But my thinking is always, I'm always confused about that, because it's but here's all this information that makes so much sense if you read it. But you would rather just not even look at it, and this is the thing about our human condition, because you could go and amass a lot of riches, or you can go and amass a lot of land, or you can go and amass a lot of, women or men, or whatever your, desire might be, but you'll still be empty.
Yep.
Right? But then you find God and you feel fulfilled.
Yep.
So it just makes, it doesn't make sense. Some things don't make sense to me, but no judgment or anything like that, because I understand. I get how it can be confusing and you just don't know what to look to. But once you start reading, it's pretty clear, in my opinion. Yeah. So anyway, well, that was a great discussion. I'll kick it over to you to give your shout outs or your final thoughts.
My shout outs are probably fourth quarter. We shoot live every Wednesday around 7:15 p.m. to 7:30. And we just talk about what's going on in sports. Always something going on, whether it's the NBA, whether it's the NFL. Kevin Durant just got traded. We talk about stuff like that. Talk about Kyrie and LeBron, and we talk about Patrick Mahomes, and Aaron Rodgers, and Derek Carr. So you get all that good stuff, man. So Yeah, that's my only shout out.
I'm gonna go.
I'll be doing a different shout out in a couple weeks from now.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go ahead and give a shout out to Miss Damita Jo. Come join us live with those two sisters on Thursday nights. We talk about a lot of pop culture, a lot of just craziness. Last week was really funny. Yeah, we talk about a lot of stuff. We talk about life,
positive mindset.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a lot of fun too. We talk about a lot of we talk about some ratchet stuff too, but it's all fun and it's all love. So come and join us over there on Thursday nights at around 7:15. My shout out this week though actually goes. Okay, so I'm gonna do a separate video, but I have been into these Bible promises. I was on one of my Facebook groups that I'm involved in for Planner Perfect, and a lady had showed a picture of like, oh, I was just going over this and I was looking at this and I was like, oh, I need one of those. So I got a few different kinds. I don't know if you can see it, but it's like these things that are called promises from the Bible, like God's promises for life. This one by far is the one that is amazing because it basically just charts out some Bible verses, and it's kind of like what I do with mine. That's the one for men. This one is kind of like unisex, I guess, but these are probably all for everybody. But these particular ones that I love, I say women, and I love that one too. But basically, it's kind of like what I'm doing with my memory verses. But I'll give a caveat because it's like, you look up something like, say you're going through, like he said, anxiety or, restlessness, or you trying to look for something. In the Bible. Faithfulness, forgiveness. They'll give you a little small verse in here. I don't suggest that you stop there. A lot of times when I'm doing my memory verses, I'll go back and read the entire chapter. So if it says prosperity, right? And it's like, okay, they're talking about, Joshua 1:8. I'll read at least all of Joshua 1, right? So maybe you don't read the whole book, but as you are writing down a verse, I think it's important to understand the context of the verse and not just that one little line, because sometimes it can be taken out of context if you don't know what's happening in the story around it. So these are really cool and I love these, but I also would recommend, once you find something in here that's helpful, to go and read the entire verse and not just stop at the entire chapter and not just stop at the verse. And even though the verse is helpful, and look, if you have to make a decision on, to seek Google or seek God, and that's, seek God, and if that just brings you to the verse, that's fine too. But I make the recommendation of reading at least the entire chapter. Even if you're not going to read all of Leviticus, or you're not going to read all of John or all of Job, if you're going to go look up Job 5:16, I would suggest that you read the whole entire Job 5. You see what I'm saying?
Man.
So anyway, so he's over there reacting, but pick you up one of these guys, the promises of God.
Yeah, it says truth from the Bible about finding the will of God.
It's interesting because it breaks it down into sections of what maybe you might be going through. And it's like, I always ask myself, what does God say about that? And that's what got me started on my memory verses.
Truth from the Bible about unsaved loved ones.
Oh, let me see, what page is that? 197? Yeah. All right. Anyway, we're all off on a tangent, but that's my shout out for the week. And I just got these off of Amazon. I don't even know who makes these. This one is from Broad Street. And you could pretty much Google and find your own. It's not like these in particular. I just like these. This one's from Christian Art Publishers. I don't know where that one's from, but I'll remember. I'll link it down below. Thomas Nelson. Okay. So, but yeah, that's all we got for you this week. We thank you so much for joining us. Remember, don't take our word for it. Go to the source. Read your Bible. Right, we'll see y'all here back next week. Bye. All right. Bye-bye.